You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Let's play a little game of Would You Rather, School Counselor Edition. Okay, would you rather spend your weekend planning a group or spend your afternoon sitting in irrelevant PD? Yikes. Or would you rather be the only counselor with no one to collaborate with, or to spend hours searching online for engaging activities? All of these options are pretty bad, right? But unfortunately, they're all too real. But what if I told you I had a solution for you? What if I told you I had access to hundreds of school counseling lessons, groups, and activities, counselor-specific trainings on the topics you need most, and a community of like-minded school counselors to support you? You would say, yes, please. Well, that is what Impact is all about. Impact is my monthly membership for school counselors, and it helps you with all of these things. You get access to hundreds of resources. That's unlimited free downloads. Log in and get what you need right away to every single resource that's in my store. We add new resources each and every month. We're adding a new middle school and elementary resource each month, and some of these are bonus Impact exclusives, meaning that you can get resources just for members. You can request resources that you need and easily search so you can find exactly what you're looking for. And let's talk about the trainings, counselor-specific trainings on the topics you need most. We do these each and every month as part of our Coffee with the Counselor series. Impact members get to join for absolutely free. You earn PD certificates and you get exclusive access to members-only things like the Ultimate Small Group Experience and our Summer Summit Conference. And the community. Y'all, this is possibly my favorite part of Impact. I so look forward to jumping on these calls, to getting to know counselors who are similar to me and also completely different. It's so fun to hear from your experiences and your challenges, and everyone brings a unique perspective to the table. We have an exclusive online community, and we even have a cool app where you can chat with other counselors in these community circles. We have our monthly calls, like I mentioned, twice a month, and we share wins, troubleshoot tough cases, and just talk about what it's like to be a counselor, because so often we're on our own island at our school sites. So if any of that sounds like it's for you, I would love to see you inside Impact. Go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact to solve all of your counselor problems. And I have a special offer for my listeners. Use code POD at checkout to save 10% off your first month. Okay, let's go to today's episode. Hey there, thanks for listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. In today's episode, I interview Lindsay. Lindsay is the Director of SEL Content at Quaver Ed, which is an SEL curriculum. She does amazing work there. She is a former school counselor and originally was a music teacher, so she has a variety of experiences that bring her to her present day role. She's also one of our Summer Summit presenters. So we just wrapped up our Summer Summit. It was an amazing event. We had a wonderful turnout. If you missed it, or if you're wondering what the Summer Summit is, this is my virtual conference I do every summer that's exclusive for my Impact members. But everything is recorded, so while you did miss the live Q&A sessions with the presenters and all of the giveaways, you can still access the presentations. The presentation recordings will be available until the next year's Summer Summit, so for a full year for our Impact members. So if you want to access those, if you weren't able to attend the summit last week, but you still want to access it and you still want to see what all Impact is about, then go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact to join Impact, which includes access to Summer Summit. Lindsay was one of our presenters, like I said. She talked all about SEL and how it's not just the school counselor's responsibility to implement SEL. She talks about how to use a school-wide approach to get everyone on board. I love this conversation. I think it's so important and so empowering, so school counselors can kind of give away a little bit of that responsibility, since I know you already have a very full plate. I can't wait for you to hear this interview with Lindsay, so let's go ahead and dive in. Hey Lindsay, how are you today?
Hey, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I'm very excited to talk to you. Through the month of June, I have been interviewing a lot of people who are part of our Summer Summit, which is my virtual conference for my Impact members. And it's just been really cool to get to know you guys better and to hear your areas of expertise. So tell us a little bit about who you are and your background.
Yeah, so my name is Lindsay Jannaman. Currently, I'm the Director of Social Emotional Learning Content at Quaver Ed. Prior to that, I started off my educational career teaching music. Actually, I taught 6th through 8th grade choir for 3 years, and then decided that I really, really just liked spending time with my students, talking to them about what was going on. And I had an awesome school counselor at the school I was working at, and he let me kind of job shadow him and see if that would be a good fit. So I got my master's in school counseling, and I did that for 10 years in sort of the metro Nashville area here in Tennessee.
Oh, awesome. I didn't realize that's where you live.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I love Nashville. That's really cool that you were a teacher at first and a music teacher specifically, or choir.
Yeah, and it kind of that's what kind of led to my role here at Quaver. Like we started as a music company, and so we originally wanted to do a social emotional learning program with music embedded into it. And so my 2 degrees kind of matched up really well to make that happen. And then once we dug into it, we found out that a lot of school counselors and teachers who are not musicians were sort of intimidated by the musical factor. So
Oh, okay.
we
I
kind of
didn't know that. Yeah.
we
I didn't
kind
know
of
that about Quaver. I was looking at, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. So we kind of backed off the music piece a little bit for our
Oh.
non-musical friends.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I did know they started as like a music company. So that's interesting how you were going to marry the two worlds. What would that have looked like? Would it have been like a lot of songs in the lesson?
Mhm. So
Okay.
we do still have a lot of songs in our lessons, but we had more things embedded, like teaching kids like clapping patterns that went with them, or like dances or stomping. And so it was a little bit more music heavy than
Mhm.
what it ended up with, which is that there's a song, and so all the educator has to do is hit play
Gotcha.
instead
Okay.
of having to have rhythm or anything themselves.
Right, right. No, I love music and dance. I do not consider myself like talented or a musician in that way. So I think I'd probably be intimidated to do those lessons. But I love that the clapping. I mean, it makes sense for like memorization type things. It's actually pretty funny. Two things come to mind. First off, my son, I've been like washing his hair in the bath, and I used to be a cheerleader in like fourth grade, and we had this cheer supersonic, and I like had changed it in elementary school to like a shampoo thing. This is so random, but I'm just thinking of,
I love that.
and I taught it to him. It's like this little shampoo song we do, and now we do it like every time we wash his hair, and I don't know, it's just like a cute thing there. And then it makes me think of second step was what we used to use when I was starting out. And we had puppets, and I like hated the puppets. So I feel like I would be more into music, but no, definitely not the puppets.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
that too, and I always had my kids do the puppet mouthing part for me. I would
Okay.
just voice it.
Right, right. But they love it, the little kids love it.
Yeah.
And the another random thing I'm just thinking of that the listeners may think is funny. When I was in high school, I interviewed at Cold Stone, the ice cream restaurant.
Mhm.
And as part of our interview, we had to come up with like a song and dance because they used to sing to you when you walked in the door. They had these
Yeah.
like funny ice cream songs.
Mhm.
But it was funny. I was like former cheerleader, like I said, and so I like loved all the choreography and the rhyming and the dance, doing a little chant. So it
I
was
used to
pretty.
be a server in college, and I loved all the different little happy birthdays we came up with, because I
Yeah.
couldn't sing happy birthday because it was like a trademarked, like copyrighted song. And so that's why restaurants have all those random happy birthday songs.
Really? Okay, I knew they had them. I did not know it was trademarked. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, back on topic.
Random.
Yeah, random, but I love it. I love your music background. I think that's super cool. So let's talk about what you're doing now, though, and that's SEL, right? So what do you wish that educators and parents knew when it comes to implementing SEL?
Um, I think with educators, that always strapped for time, and our educators, especially our classroom teachers, are always just getting thing after thing piled on, do this, now do this, now make time for this. And so I think that the biggest thing I wish educators knew was that it's not just another thing. It's kind of SEL is more a way of doing and a way of being, and it's something that we can embed and interweave throughout the entire school day, even in just little interactions like, when a student is passing out papers or when everybody's coming to the carpet to get together, like just learning that all those interactions and those different things that we do throughout the day can have SEL very intentionally embedded throughout them without having to take a lot of extra time, because then we know instructional time is just so important and so high priority, but so is SEL. And so if we can kind of marry and interweave those things together throughout the day so that it's not just a set aside time, like, okay, we did our 5 minutes of SEL today, that's enough of that. And then with parents, I think too, kind of the same thing. A lot of the interactions that you're having at home, whether you realize it or not, are reinforcing those social emotional skills, and I did a workshop here in Nashville for parents of struggling readers. And so we were talking about when the kiddos get frustrated, like taking that as an opportunity instead of just having them push through that frustration when they're stuck reading, like taking the time to like process those feelings together and talk about, I feel frustrated when this happens and here's what I do. And that parents have a lot of opportunity to model and discuss those things as they come up. And so I think the biggest thing for parents and educators alike is just, it's in everything that we do. We just have to recognize that and look for those opportunities.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. A few things came to mind when you're talking about for educators. It almost is like, as counselors, we talk a lot about being trauma informed. And so I feel like it's the same thing, right? Like it's an approach. You're not like, okay, I need to teach trauma prevention today. You know what I mean? It's an approach to how you do everything. And I think it's the same way. Could you give us some like two tangible examples of, you were saying, with passing out papers or doing a come to the carpet time? Like what could teachers do to embed SEL then?
Yeah, I mean, so if a kiddo is passing out papers, um, like having the other kids like tell them thank you or notice what they're doing to help their classroom. Or when we're coming to the carpet, like noticing everybody's amount of personal space and making sure that, we're walking in a way that is safe and that helps all of our friends feel comfortable and included. When we make our circle, that we're making it big enough so that everybody is included and everybody has a place and everybody feels like they belong. So just kind of taking those day-to-day things that we do and then expanding on those, looking for the opportunities. When we do a turn and talk, like really talking about how we have a conversation with our friend instead of just turn and talk and tell your partner XYZ. Let's talk about how to be an active listener, how to show attention to your partner, how to ask questions to follow up, different things like that. So being really intentional with those interactions.
Right. I love that. It's something I'd recently heard. I don't remember where, but it's the concept of habit stacking. So it's like if you want to have a new habit, it can be a lot harder to try to do something brand new. But if you pair it with something you're already doing. So I actually downloaded this app. It was like a meditation kind of app because everyone has the desire, I'm going to get up in the morning and do my meditation. But how often do we get to actually do that?
Right.
So this one, I really like it. It's called, oh gosh, what is it called? She calls them activations. I think it's called Superhuman. I'll link to it in the show notes. But she has them sorted by like getting ready, cooking dinner, cleaning your house, whatever. And then they're timed to different tasks. So you could be like, oh, I got like 15 minutes to cook dinner. My habit is to cook dinner already. So I'm going to habit stack this meditation. We do like a mindful cooking, So anyways, it was just kind of a cool concept of pairing something you want to do with something you're already doing. And I think that would be a cool way to introduce it to teachers because like you said, they go to another, PD and we're like, we're going to start doing more SEL. You guys have to start doing this. And it's just like,
oh, where am I going to fit that in my day?
Yes, exactly. So by letting them know, hey, you're probably already doing it a little bit already. Let's just, enhance it. I love that. And then in terms of parents, it's funny. My husband and I, he helps me a lot with the business side of things. And we were talking about how a lot of people are homeschooling more now, and it may be like expanding to the homeschool market and like sharing some social emotional resources there. And I was like, it's funny though, because when you think about it, it's just parenting. It's like things that's just part of parenting, right? Because I was wondering if people would even be interested in like buying social emotional things to use with their own children, because I usually am working with counselors in the school setting. I didn't even know if there would be like a need for that. But then I'm like, I feel like it's just parenting. Like as a parent, I'm
Right.
always trying to teach my son like calm down strategies, things like that.
And I think even just like, as kids are growing up, like recognizing those opportunities to just like identify emotions,
Mm-hmm.
like helping the kids connect those dots between, what they're saying, what they're doing, what their body language or their facial features look like, just kind of building that emotional intelligence. There's so many different opportunities for that and for the adult to talk about how they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
As much self-disclosure as as is appropriate. Obviously, your kid is not your bestie that you're sharing everything with, but
Right.
like letting them know like how you process and how you manage those feelings. You're being a model all the time. And teachers are too, kiddos are watching their interactions with other adults, with
Mm-hmm.
parents, with other kids, things like that. There's so many opportunities for modeling that I think people don't even realize because it's just second nature.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I love everything you're saying is making it feel very doable, which is nice. I know for the listeners. What about in terms of, so a lot of my listeners are primarily school counselors. So they're doing like tier 1 intervention. They're going into classrooms once or twice a month and teaching like an SEL lesson.
Mhm.
How can they kind of outsource some of what they are doing? Because they're also seeing small groups and seeing kids individually and doing parent meetings and stuff. So how do you recommend that they can kind of work with teachers or parents or kind of like outsource some of this SEL?
Yeah. So one thing I would say, I worked at the biggest campus I worked at, I was at a 1 to 900 ratio where I was one school counselor for 900
Wow.
kiddos. And that was really a challenge because I think over the course of the school year, I saw my kids maybe once a month. So, at best, we're getting 9 lessons in over the course of the school year. And I felt like I kind of had to look at the topics that I had available to me and see what was of utmost importance. I did a lot of needs assessments with my teachers, and it might have been, second grade really needed self-management, but then fourth grade really needed relationship skills. And so I kind of tried to tailor that. So I invited the teachers to give input to what I was going to cover with their kiddos that year, just kind of based. And I would do it again in December because sometimes in August they don't really know exactly what their
Right.
kiddos need yet. And so then I would do it again, right before or after Christmas break. And they were like, okay, now we know what issues we really need to. And so I sort of tackled the more urgent needs, I guess. And then I would always also do the things, like personal safety and things that teachers didn't always feel completely comfortable with. But I liked doing a calendar for each grade level. I actually got to pilot the curriculum that I work for now. I got to pilot that my last year as a school counselor. And so there were 36 lessons, so one for every week of the school year, but I only got to do like 9. And so I picked the 9 that I did, but then I made calendars for the teachers and we're like, if you want to do, the other 3 lessons in this unit, the weeks that I'm not seeing them, you could do a little bit for morning meeting every day and get through, the entire curriculum in the school year. Um, and I think too, just also making sure the teachers and parents are aware of like what you're teaching in your whole group, in your tier 1 groups. So even if your teachers aren't doing like an SEL lesson per week, because that is sort of a bigger ask, making sure that they have access to the information that you shared. If there was a song that you guys sang, like getting that to the teachers, getting that to the parents so the kiddos can keep singing it and reinforcing those themes, or if there was an activity, sharing that with. I think newsletters are great. When there's a school newsletter, asking for, can I put a little counselor's corner blurb in there when that's going home to parents? Or if the teachers have their individual newsletters, like getting those to grade levels so they could put a little paragraph in from you, like, in whole group this month, we've really been talking a lot about responsibility. Here are some ways that you guys can discuss that at home. So I think just sharing out those resources as much as possible, and either allowing the teachers to, if they have time to do some lessons that you didn't get to, or to reinforce the concepts that you've taught.
Yes, I love that. I love newsletters. We in Impact, my membership, we have like a resource request feature, and someone requested newsletters. And I had like a counselor's corner on my school website, but I never really sent out like a counselor's newsletter. And so I was like, okay, well, like we'll honor this request. Like a few people may like this. Oh my gosh, it's like the most popular feature. Everyone loves the newsletter. And we do like a sample one, but then they can edit it, you know, if they want to like switch out some things. But exactly what you said, you know, this is what we've been working on in counseling. These are some ways you can continue the conversation with your child at home. Here's some related resources, things like that. Newsletters are great. I agree. And yeah, I love that idea about giving teachers more if they want to, because you'll have some teachers who want to do more and then some who don't want to or unable to or whatever. What did that look like technically? Like, were you giving them like a Google Drive with like, here's the song we did? Are you emailing them after every lesson? How?
Yeah, so I did like a Google Doc chart, and I would just say, like if it's May, week 1, here's a song and an activity. Week 2, here's a song and an activity. Or here's a book that we read, if you want to grab that from the library and read that with it. So just making them like a calendar with usually a song, an activity, a book idea. And then if they wanted to add like a game or anything to that. So just giving them sort of like 4 per month that they could go through, and then they can do as much or as little as they want to.
Yeah, I love that.
Kind of going back to the newsletter thing too, I think it's really important to let parents know what it is that they're learning social and emotionally, because I think a lot of parents don't know exactly what SEL is. And so demystifying that as much as we can and giving them the information of like, here's what we're teaching kids. When we say SEL, like, here's what it is. It's kind of like what you were saying earlier. It's all the things you do as a parent and you want the kids to do to be successful later in life, and get along with people and have good relationships and be able to process their emotions. And so I think anything we can do, I don't think we can over communicate with parents about SEL, because it is such a kind of a hot button topic depending on where you are. And so letting parents know exactly what it is and that it's not anything, extra outside the school day that they shouldn't be learning, it's not taking away from any academics or anything like that. But I think just removing that mystery helps a lot.
I totally agree. I remember the first time I heard someone say the SEL was like controversial, and I was like, huh? It's what?
Yeah.
It's like essential. But we have to meet people where they're at. And yeah, like you said, you can't over communicate. And comparing it, I know sometimes schools feel more comfortable saying like life skills or character ed. So maybe making those parallels. So then parents can learn that. It's awesome and helpful. And yeah, that's great. So, Lindsay, you are one of our Summer Summit presenters. We are so excited. So this episode will actually air right after we're wrapping up our Summer Summit. But if you could give us a little sneak peek of what your presentation is about, because people will still be able to view it afterwards because they are pre-recorded. So yes, give us a little sneak peek of what you're going to be teaching us about.
Yeah, so my session is We're All in This Together. So a little High School Musical throwback there. But I feel like a lot of times as school counselors, we are tasked with the SEL of the entire building. I actually remember having curriculum kits delivered to my office and just dropped off and good luck, have fun, you're on it, and while I feel like school counselors can take the lead in that and can be a coordinator in that, I don't believe it's solely their responsibility. I feel like when we say we're all in this together, everyone in the school building has a role in the social emotional learning program for that school. And so my session is about what can school counselors do to create buy-in from the other teachers, from parents, from administrators, from volunteers, from other staff members in the building. How can we get everyone in the building involved so that this is a way of being and doing and approaching things that we're all doing, and it's not solely on the back of the counselor? Because like you said earlier, the counselor is doing whole groups, and they're doing small groups, and they're doing individuals, and they're doing a lot of other extras, from lunch duty to testing coordinator, depending on where they are. And it's the whole brunt of an SEL program doesn't belong on one person's shoulders.
Right.
And
I
so
love
that's
that.
what my session is about, is how do we share this so that it's not just overwhelming for one person.
Yes. Oh, I totally agree. Awesome. I'm so excited to check out your session, and for everyone else too as well. Where can the listeners find you if they want to connect and find out more about what you offer?
Yeah, so our company is Quaver Ed. It's QuaverEd, looks like quavered, .com. We have a free preview of our resources. They're available. We have multiple curricula, but our SEL program is called QuaverReady, because we're helping students get ready for the future, get ready to be productive adults and employees. And yeah, so that's where they can find us. And then me, Lindsay Jannaman, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram as SEL School Counselor, if anybody wants to find me there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing all of this with us. I can't wait for your session. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.